Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to discuss about urinogenital system in vertebrates. So in the urinogenital system, there are two systems, excretory system and reproductive system. And these two systems is structurally closely associated with each other. So it is customary to discuss about these two systems together. Let's see what is excretion. So excretion is a physiological process in which the metabolic waste like CO2, ammonia, urea, uric acid, pigments, creatine and some inorganic salts are expelled to exterior using excretory organs like kidney. So now about the kidneys. Kidneys are main excretory organs of vertebrates, and each kidney consists of uriniferous tubules or nephros. So the kidney differs on the basis of number, complexity, and arrangement of these uriniferous tubules or nephros. Now, before talking about the structure of nephros, let's see what is mesomer or nephrostome. Mesomer or nephrostome extending the uriniferous tubules arise in an embryo from a special part of the mesoderm called mesomer or nephrotome extending on each side along the entire trunk in between upper segmental mesoderm called epimer and lower lateral plate mesoderm called hypomere. Primitively, the uriniferous tubules develop from the nephrotome in a sequence commencing from the anterior end. They are segmental in arrangement with one pair of uriniferous tubules for each trunk segment. Now, if we see the structure of nephros, there are three parts of nephros. So the first part of the nephros is ciliated peritoneal funnel, and it is connected with the coelomastome or nephrostome by which this tubule opens into the splanchnocyl part of the coelom. Then next the second part is longitudinal duct or longitudinal collecting duct, and the third part is renal corpuscle or Malpighian body that consists of a double layered Bowman capsules that contains a glomerulus. The glomerulus is a network of interconnecting arterioles of afferent and efferent arteries. So we discussed that uriniferous tubules or nephros are made of three parts, and this part, that is renal corpuscle or Malpighian body, consists of Bowman's capsule and glomerulus. So on the basis of the location of glomerulus, the nephro the nephros are of three types: internal glomerulus, external glomerulus, and aglomerular. The internal glomerulus is common. It is usually found in all the higher vertebrates, and it is a condition of glomerulus when the glomerulus is encapsulated in the Bowman's capsule, whereas the external glomerulus is a condition when the glomerulus is without a capsule suspended freely in the coelomic cavity, and external glomerulus is found in embryos and larvae. The third type is aglomerulus. So this type of condition is found in some fishes, embryos, and in larvae, and Malpighian body with glomeruli are lacking in some fishes, embryos, and larvae, and their kidneys are called aglomerular. And in an adult, the uriniferous tubules are elongated and coiled, so that their segmental arrangement is lost and they become enclosed in a connective tissue capsules to form a kidney. And in the beginning I told you that there is a mesodermal part called mesomere or nephrotome, from which the different types of nephros or uriniferous tubules arise. So on the basis of which part is involved in giving rise the uriniferous tubules or nephros, the nephros or kidneys are of 5 types. First is archaeonephros, that is also called holonephros, and this is ancestral vertebrate nephros, you can say, and this is found in larval mixing and some apodons amphibians. And second type is pronephros, third is mesonephros, fourth is metanephros, and there is one condition associated to mesonephros is opisthonephros. So in this diagram, that is, it's a crude diagram, but this you can say that this is the nephrotome, the mesodermal part that gives rise the different types of nephrons. So when the nephros or uriniferous tubule arise from the anteriormost part of the nephrotome, these are called pronephros. When the middle part of the nephrotome is involved in giving rise the nephros, it is called mesonephros. Whereas when the posteriormost part of the nephrotome is involved in giving rise the nephros, then it is called metanephros. Besides this, the primitive form, which is archaeonephros, and there is one intermediate is opisthonephros types of nephros. All three, pro, meso and metanephros, are fundamentally alike, but they differ principally in their relationship to the blood system they receive, and they differ in degree of complexity and in efficiency. So if we talk about archaeonephros, the ancestral vertebrate had a pair of kidneys running through the entire length of the coelom, and each had segmentally arranged tubules. That means one pair per body segment, and each tubule opened separately into the coelom by a peritoneal funnel, that is also called nephrostome. So near each funnel there was an external glomerulus. That means the glomerulus is without capsule, or it is not surrounded by the Bowman's capsule. That is why it is external glomerulus, and it remains suspended in the coelom. So all the tubules of each kidney opened into a common longitudinal duct, that is also called Wolffian or archinephric duct, which joined the cloaca. This kidney is called archaeonephros or holonephros. Let's see the diagram of archaeonephros or holonephros. So this is the diagram of ancestral vertebrate kidney, or you can say archaeonephros or holonephros. So this is aorta, and these are the blood vessels which are going to join the glomerulus, and you know that this is one kidney on of the right side. Similarly, there will be a kidney on left side. So this is archaeonephros. And why it is archaeonephros? Because these are tubules, the nephros, the uriniferous tubules, which are segmentally arranged. And if you see that the nephrostome of each uriniferous tubules is opening directly into the coelom, and if you see the glomerulus, they are also lying in the coelom. So they are not encapsulated by Bowman's capsule. So they are open, they are external, and ultimately all these uriniferous tubules or nephros are opening into a common duct. This common duct is called archinephric duct, or it is also called Wolffian duct, and this is ultimately leading into the cloaca. So this is the primitive type of kidney which is found in the ancestral vertebrates, in which the glomerulus is lying in the coelom and it is not surrounded by any structure, any capsule. So it is external, so they are called external glomeruli, and the nephrostome are also opening directly into the coelom. Now the second type of nephros is pronephros. So pronephros is the most primitive, and while present in the embryonic development of all vertebrates, but in any adult vertebrate it is not seen. They are not present in adult vertebrates. So they are restricted only in the embryonic development of vertebrates, and some larval cyclostomes have a kidney, part of which appears to be homologous to the embryonic pronephros of higher vertebrates. Pronephros develop in the anterior-most part of the nephrotome, as I just told you a little while ago. There are only 3 to 15 uriniferous tubules or nephros in each one pair of each segment. Near each tubule is a glomerulus projecting into the coelom, which is not connected with the tubule is the external glomerulus. Each tubule opens into the coelom by a funnel of nephrostome. The uriniferous tubules of each pronephros opens into a common pronephric duct which grows back to enter the embryonic cloaca. In some animals, in some vertebrates, there is a large pronephric chamber as well, which surrounds the glomus, that is the collection of glomeruli and tubules. So if we see the structure of pronephros or pronephric kidney, so they are found in the embryonic development of all the vertebrates, but they are also found in some adult lower vertebrates as well. And as we know that there are 3 to 15 uriniferous tubules or nephros in each pair of kidneys. So this is a pair, this is a kidney, you can say, on left side, present on the left side. Similarly there will be a kidney on the right side as well. So here what we see that there are 3 convoluted nephrons or uriniferous tubules. They are opening into the coelom by nephrostomes, and on the other side they are opening into a common duct, that is pronephric duct. And in some animals what happens, these nephros, uriniferous tubules, along with the glomerulus, all together surrounded by a pronephric chamber. So this pronephric chamber is derived from pericardial or pleuroperitoneal cavity. All the tubules of pronephros open into a common pronephric duct, opening posteriorly into a embryonic cloaca. Now if we want to understand the 3 types of kidneys together, like pronephros, mesonephros and metanephros, so what we see that we know that there is a segment of mesoderm that is called nephrotome. You can see this area is nephrotome, and this is the anterior most part of the nephrotome, this is the middle part of the nephrotome, and this is the posterior most part of the nephrotome. So the anteriormost part of the nephrotome gives rise to pronephros, primitive uriniferous tubules. Then the middle part gives rise to mesonephros, and the posteriormost part gives rise to metanephros. So what is the difference between these pronephros, mesonephros and metanephros by understanding this diagram? So we know that these black part are actually showing the partition of the nephrotome, and we can see that the number of nephros or uriniferous tubule is less as compared to uriniferous tubules in the mesonephros. So that means the uriniferous tubules or nephros undergo budding and they produce more uriniferous tubules, and this is how the efficiency of mesonephros gets higher as compared to pronephros. Similarly, in metanephros, this is a compact structure, so the budding process has gone further to greater extent, and this kidney is having more uriniferous tubules as compared to the mesonephros. So we can say that metanephros are functionally more efficient as compared to mesonephros. Second thing I would like to tell you that in pronephros we know that the glomerulus lies in the coelom. They are not internal glomeruli. They are not covered by Bowman's capsule. So there will be no effective filtration of blood in the pronephros. In mesonephros, the glomerulus, or we can say the glomeruli, is internal. Similarly, the glomeruli is internal, and there is a division in the kidney as well, cortex and medulla. So the efficiency of kidney rises to a greater extent. Another difference is that we know that the uriniferous tubules or nephros all the tubules open into a common duct, that is pronephric duct, and ultimately this duct leads into the cloaca. And similarly in mesonephros, all the uriniferous tubules or nephros ultimately open into a common collecting duct. Now it is called mesonephric duct. But in metanephros, because this Wolffian duct, or you can say the mesonephric or pronephric duct, gets degenerated, and instead of this duct, the another duct arises from the metanephric kidney, and now it is called ureter, and it opens into the cloaca. So the mesonephric duct and pronephric duct opens into the cloaca, as well as the ureter also opens into the cloaca. But during the development of mesonephros from pronephros, when the pronephros get disappeared, this kind of nephros arise from the middle part of the nephrotome, and the ducts, the nephros or uriniferous tubules ultimately throw their waste into the common collecting duct, which is now called the mesonephric duct. Earlier it was pronephric duct, but when the kidney becomes metanephric kidney, which also emerges from the posteriormost part of the nephrotome, has a different duct, that is ureter. Now about the metanephros or metanephric kidneys. So metanephros develop from the middle part of the nephrotome behind the pronephros, which degenerates. At first, it consists of paired segmental uriniferous or mesonephric tubules, each with a peritoneal funnel opening into the coelom and internal glomerulus enclosed in a Bowman's capsule. Both are collectively called renal corpuscles. Here you can see these mesonephric uriniferous tubules join the existing pronephric duct or archinephric duct on each side. Here, as I just a little while ago I had told you, these mesonephric uriniferous tubules join the existing pronephric duct or archinephric duct on each side, which with the disappearance of pronephros is called a mesonephric duct or Wolffian duct. Later on, the mesonephric duct tubules undergo budding to form hundreds of tubules so that their segmental arrangement is lost. But in sharks, it functions as a gonodial duct, and the kidneys have developed new accessory urinary duct. In amniotes like sharks, other fishes, and caecilians, which are amphibians, the mesonephros extend throughout the length of the coelom behind the pronephros and is formed from the entire nephrotome behind the pronephros and is functional both in embryos as well as in adults. We see another type of kidney as well, that is called ophistonephros. So what is ophistonephros? In adult anurans, urodales, and amniotes embryos, the metanephros is formed only from the middle part of the nephrotome and it does not extend throughout the length of the coelom. But in sharks and caecilians, this kind of kidney is called ophistonephros. That is, mesonephric tubules extend posteriorly throughout the length of the coelom. So that means, so what happens in ophistonephros types of kidneys? This mesonephros part gets extended up to the posteriormost part of the nephrotome. So that means the mesonephros extends up to the terminal part of the nephrotome. So there will be no metanephros or metanephronic types of tubules or uriniferous tubules emerge from the nephrotome. Only the mesonephros will be arising from the middle part of the nephrotome as well as from the posteriormost part of the nephrotome. So this kind of condition of emerging of uriniferous tubules is called ophistonephros, which is seen in some fishes. Now next type is metanephros types of kidneys. So metanephros is the functional kidney, develops only in amniotes. Remember that they are found in amniotes only. It is formed from the posteriormost part of the nephrotome behind the embryonic mesonephros, which is displaced somewhat anterior and lateral. During embryonic life, both pronephros and mesonephros make their appearance. The metanephros fundamentally resembles the mesonephros but arises more posteriorly in the body and more compact and contains a few greater number of renal units, uriniferous tubules, due to the budding. Furthermore, the renal tubules, instead of draining into the archinephric duct, opens into larger collecting tubules which ultimately lead to a new excretory duct called the ureter. Metanephric has a double origin. A tubular outgrowth arises from the base of the mesonephric duct near the cloaca, and it grows anteriorly and dorsally, and eventually the metanephric tubules open into it. Its distal end dilates to form the pelvic, or you can say the pelvis, which divides several times to form collecting tubules, while its proximal part becomes the ureter or metanephric duct. The nephrotome gives rise to metanephric uriniferous tubules, to which there are thousands with no segmental arrangements. The metanephric tubules become long and much coiled and have glomeruli enclosed in Bowman's capsule, but they lack peritoneal funnel, so that all connections with the coelom is lost. And metanephros are the functional kidney of adult amniotes, and they have achieved the separation of the urinary function from the genital function, which appear to be the trend in the evolution of the urinogenital system. In metanephros, the metanephric tubules are much convoluted, and a thin U-shaped loop, that is called Henle, is formed in between proximal and distal convolution of the tubule, and it is absent in reptiles and rudimentary in birds. Kidney in differentiated into outer cortex having renal corpuscles and inner medulla possessing collecting tubules and loops of Henle. These two aggregated into one or more pyramids projecting into pelvis. In reptiles, the renal portal system has begun to lose its importance, and some of the blood from the caudal region goes directly through the kidneys instead of filtering slowly through the capillary network. In birds, renal portals do not break up into capillaries and are therefore not comparable to the renal portals of the lower vertebrates. Mammals also lack renal portal system. And as far as excretion is concerned, in excretion by vertebrate kidney, three processes are involved: a filtration of blood in the glomerulus, second is secretion of certain waste substances by the cells of uriniferous tubules into the lumen of the tubules, and the third function is selective reabsorption by the uriniferous tubules of useful substances from the glomerular filtrate. And in aquatic vertebrates, the kidneys are concerned mainly with the culmination of excess water absorbed in the body, and they excrete ammonia and well diluted with water. If ammonia is not diluted, it is highly toxic for the animal, whereas in terrestrial vertebrates, one of the main functions of the kidneys is to conserve water for maintaining the water balance of the body, and they excrete urea and uric acid. The functioning of kidneys is not under the nervous system, but in under the control of several hormones. So this is another unique feature of metanephric kidney. Now coming to the urinary bladder, or there is one or two types of urinary bladder, or you can say the associated structure like cloacal bladder or allantoic bladder are also seen in the vertebrates. So what is urinary bladder? The urinary bladder serving as a reservoir for urine. In some fishes, the bladder is formed by an enlargement of the terminal part of mesonephric ducts and is used for temporary storage of urine. And about the cloacal bladder, in amphibians, the urinary bladder is derived as a diverticulum from the ventral wall of the cloaca and not from the proctodeum. It is lined with the endoderm and is called a cloacal bladder. But as far as allantoic bladder is concerned, in embryos of amniotes, a large bag-like allantois arises from the hindgut. It serves as an excretory and respiratory organ. In hatching or at birth, the allantois is lost, but its basal part persists, and along with a portion of the cloacal wall, it becomes the adult urinary bladder, which is endodermal, and it is called allantoic bladder. In mammals, except monotremes, the ureters open directly into the bladder that opens outside through a short, narrow tube that is called urethra, and cloaca is not found in mammals except monotremes. Now coming to the evolution of kidneys in vertebrates. So through this diagram, this is development of pronephros and pronephric duct in embryonic vertebrates. So what happens in embryonic vertebrates? We know that this entire part is given rise by the nephrotome. So this is the anterior-most part of the nephrotome, which is giving rise the nephrostomes, and these are the pronephros. So, or they are also called head kidneys. So the nephrostomes are opening into the coelom, and the terminal duct are opening into the pronephric duct, and ultimately this duct is opening into the cloaca. And as we see that there is no relation between the nephrostomes and the gonads in the embryonic vertebrates. But when we see the atrophy of pronephros and development of mesonephros in embryonic anamniotes and amniotes, what happens? In the previous diagram here we saw the pronephros, and these were the uriniferous tubules of pronephros. Now they are degenerating. So these are degenerating pronephros, and instead of these nephros, the middle part of the nephrotome is giving rise to other uriniferous tubules. Now they are called mesonephros because they are emerging from the middle part of the nephrotome, and they have nephrostome. You can see the nephrostome as well as the Bowman's capsule, which are housing and surrounding the glomeruli. So the glomeruli becomes internal, and the nephrostomes are opening into the coelom, and the ducts, these nephros are ultimately opening into the collecting duct. Now this collecting duct is called pronephric duct, similar to the pronephric duct we saw in the pronephros, because there is no difference between the collecting duct of mesonephros and the collecting duct of the pronephros. So they are commonly called pronephric duct in pronephros, as well as this is also called pronephric duct in mesonephros of anamniotes and amniotes. Now we see the differentiation of mesonephric duct. So what happens in anamniotes when differentiation of mesonephric duct? The mesonephric duct is the terminal duct or collecting duct. So what happens? We see that this is the Mullerian duct or oviduct in female. This is running from this end to this end and opening into the cloaca, whereas these are vestigial pronephros. They have disappeared, or they are disappearing, and their pronephric duct is also disappeared. So the nephros of mesonephric kidneys are ultimately opening into a collecting duct, which is now called the Wolffian body or Wolffian duct. This is mesonephric or Wolffian duct. So let's see what is the association of these nephros or the nephrostome with the gonads in the next diagram. So in this diagram, this is plan of kidney and genital ducts in an amniote. The A diagram is showing male, So this is testis, and you can see these are pronephros, right? These are pronephros and these are pronephric ducts, and this is mesonephros or opisthonephros, because if there is no metanephros and the mesonephros went expanded or gone expanded to up to the terminal part of the nephrotome, then they are called opisthonephros. Otherwise they are called mesonephros when they are restricted only in the middle part of the nephrotome. So this part, the mesonephros, is taking up the urinary function of the kidney, or you can say this is urinary portion of the kidney which involved in the urine formation, whereas the pronephros, these are the ducts which are, this is the pronephric duct which is associated with the testis, and now they are called the vas efferentia. So these vas efferentia ultimately opening into the mesonephric or Wolffian duct, and here this duct, the Wolffian duct, is functioning excretory function as well as the reproductive function, genital function. And as you can see that this Wolffian duct which is carrying sperm along with the waste is opening into the cloaca. So there is a point that is called urinogenital papilla. So now this duct is urinogenital. It is performing excretory as well as reproductive function. A little change I would like to add in my explanation, that by mistake I told you that these are pronephric tubules. They are not actually. This entire part is made of mesonephros, you can say the mesonephric tubules, and the anterior part of the mesonephric tubule are associated with the testis, and these tubules are now called vas efferentia. They are carrying the sperms into the Wolffian duct, whereas the remaining posterior part is called the urinary portion of kidney or mesonephros. This is performing the excretory functions. So there is no involvement of pronephros or pronephric tubules, because in amniotes the pronephros got degenerated. So only the mesonephros or mesonephric tubules are involved in performing urinogenital functions. So this is about the female of amniotes. So here also you can say that this is mesonephros or opisthonephros, or you can say the Wolffian body, because the anteriormost part of the nephrotome which was supposed to produce pronephros have got these pronephric tubules got degenerated, and these are only the mesonephric tubules, and we see that this entire part of the mesonephros is performing the excretory function. So this is kidney, you can it is labeled over here, mesonephros. All the tubules are opening into a collecting duct which is now called the Wolffian duct. This is not urinogenital duct as we saw in the male of amniotes. It is only performing the excretory function. It is opening into the cloaca at the urinary papilla, whereas the other duct which is called Mullerian duct, this duct is a separate duct, and this is carrying the female gametes. Now coming to the plan of kidney and genital ducts in the amniotes, the A diagram is showing male. So this is testis and these are vas efferentia, and there is a duct which is carrying the sperm. This is called vas deferens or Wolffian duct. It is opening into the cloaca, whereas we can see the vestigial Mullerian duct because it is of no use in males, and this is metanephric kidney, metanephros, and this is metanephric kidney, and one part of this kidney, or you can say the outer part of the kidney, is made of mesonephros, and this part is made of millions of uriniferous tubules. Ultimately, the terminal duct of these uriniferous tubules opening into the this part, and it is carrying the urine into the through the ureter into the cloaca. So we know that in males these are the remains of mesonephros, because now the metanephros have emerged from the posteriormost part of the nephrotome. Similarly, this is vestigial Mullerian duct. So Mullerian duct was the urinogenital duct we saw in the anemniotes, and there is no function of this Mullerian duct. So the collecting duct of the metanephros, now it is called vas deferens or Wolffian duct, and these ducts carrying the sperms into the vas deferens or Wolffian duct are called the vas efferentia. When we see the diagram of amniotes female, so what we see, this is the metanephros. No part of this is made by the mesonephros, and this is ureter, and the remains of mesonephros we can see they are degenerating. This is ovary, and this is Mullerian duct, which is carrying the female gametes into the urethra, and we can see the vestigial Wolffian duct as well here. So as we discussed a little while ago, that metanephric has a double origin. A tubular outgrowth arises from the base of the mesonephric duct near the cloaca, and it grows anteriorly and dorsally, and eventually the metanephric tubules open into it. Its distal end dilates to form the pelvis, which divides several times to form collecting tubules, while its proximal part becomes the ureter or metanephric duct. Hello everyone. In the previous video I had taught you the testes and the male genital ducts. In this video I will be discussing about ovaries and female genital ducts. So the ovaries are masses of connective tissue within on outer germinal epithelium, and the ova are at various stages of development, and the ovaries are never connected with kidney and their ducts. So that means the ovaries are not connected with the mesonephric or metanephric ducts and the kidneys, and the ova passed into coelom after being discharged. So since the ova are passed into the coelom and the ovaries are not connected with the kidneys, so that means from the coelom the ova are transported, they are carried to the uterus or to the cloaca by some other ducts which are called Mullerian or oviduct. Here you can see the diagram of cyclostomes, ovary and the oviduct. So here you can see there is only one ovary, it is not present in pair. So and around this ovary there are two kidneys which are mesonephric kidney, but there is no association between kidney and ovary, and these kidneys are opening into the collecting duct through the collecting, or you can say the nephro, through the uriniferous tubules. So these collecting ducts are also opening into cloaca separately, whereas the ova shed into the coelom from the ovary also reach to the cloaca through the genital pore, female genital pore. Now coming to the elasmobranchs. So elasmobranch have one pair of ovaries, and in the elasmobranch fishes, the pronephric duct splits to form two ducts. So the pronephric duct splits longitudinally and form two ducts. One is mesonephric and the second is oviduct. The mesonephric carries urine or transports urine, whereas oviduct transport ova. Then through peritoneal funnel, the oviduct opens into the coelom. So there is a funnel which is called peritoneal funnel. So by this funnel, these oviduct open into the coelom. So the upper end of the oviduct are fused to form a funnel-like structure that is called ostium. So in the elasmobranchs, what happens? The funnel-like structure of both sides get fused to form this ostium. So the ova are transported from the coelom to the cloaca through this ostium, and the shell glands are also found associated with the oviduct to form horny shell around the eggs or to encase the fertilized eggs. Here you can see the structure of elasmobranchs, ovary and the oviduct. So here you see that there is one pair of ovary, and the ovaries are not associated and connected with the mesonephric kidneys, and we know that the pronephric duct splits longitudinally to form two ducts. The outer one is the Mullerian duct that carries the ova, whereas the inner one is called the mesonephric duct. This carries the urine. So there is a one pair of mesonephric duct which open into the cloaca separately. Likewise, there are two Mullerian duct which also open separately into the cloaca, and the anterior end of the Mullerian duct having funnel, and because there is a fusion, both the funnels of both the Mullerian duct get fused to form ostium. So this is fused funnel, and now this receives the ova which are shed into the coelom from the ovary. So that means the ova are transported by the Mullerian duct into the cloaca, whereas the mesonephric duct is carrying the urine. Now coming to the teleost fishes or bony fishes, they also have a pair of ovary, and ovary are continuous with the oviduct so as to prevent the ova from escaping into the coelom. But remember that usually in vertebrates, the ovaries are not connected with the oviduct directly, but in the bony fishes, the ovaries are continuous with the oviduct for transporting the ova. So in many, the lower part of the oviduct are fused. In many bony fishes, the lower part of the oviduct get fused, but in some bony fishes are ovoviviparous, but most of them are oviparous. So that means the oviduct is provided with shell glands which can form or which can encase the fertilized eggs. So the oviparous fishes lay eggs, fertilized eggs surrounded by eggshell, whereas in oviviviparous fishes, the fertilized ova hatches into the body of the fish only. Here you can see the diagram of teleost, the ovaries and associated ducts. So there is one pair of ovary, and unlike the elasmobranchs, there is no ostium kind of thing, means there is no funnel that receives the ova. So instead of this, these ovaries are continuous with the oviduct. They are connected very much with the oviduct. So through these oviduct, the ova are carried to the cloaca. So this is the main difference between the cartilaginous fishes and bony fishes, that in bony fishes the ovaries are connected with the oviduct, whereas here they are not connected, and they are the oviduct are opening into the cloaca separately, and these are mesonephric kidneys. So the mesonephric kidneys are also opening into the cloaca separately by the mesonephric ducts. Here you can see the mesonephric duct. Now coming to the amphibia, the ovaries are paired and contains a cavity within them filled with lymph. So in the ovaries of amphibians, there is a cavity within the ovary that is filled with lymph, and the oviducts are paired, which are not connected directly with the oviduct. In some amphibians, lower end of the oviduct are fused together, and in most of the amphibians, the lower end of the oviduct is enlarged into uterus-like structure or ovisac, which serve as a temporary storage space for ova, and the eggshell glands are situated along the oviduct. So here you can see the structure of amphibian ovary and oviduct. So they have a pair of ovary, although they are found close to the kidneys, but there is no direct association as far as association between the uriniferous and ducts of ovaries are concerned. So they are both are separate, but you can see clearly there are one pair of oviduct, and the anterior part of the oviduct are having funnel-like structure which receive the ova, and through this convoluted tubules they pass down to the cloaca. But their lower end, just before opening into the cloaca, get enlarged to store the fertilized ova temporarily. So this part is called ovisac, or you can say the uterus-like structure. So these are two Mullerian ducts which are opening into the cloaca separately, and these are mesonephric kidneys. So they are also opening into the cloaca through mesonephric duct. So there is a pair of mesonephric duct. So now coming to the reptiles, in reptilia class, the ovaries are paired and they also contain a cavity within them filled with lymph. So the cavity is filled with lymph, and the paired oviduct open into cloaca separately, and shell glands also found along the oviduct, and since in reptiles which are amniotes, the metanephric duct, because they have metanephric kidney, so the metanephric duct act as ureter, whereas the Mullerian duct or the oviduct act as oviduct which carries the fertilizer. So here you can see the diagram of reptiles, the ovaries and the oviducts in the in reptilia, class reptilia. So there is a pair of ovary, and there is no association between the ovary and the kidneys. The kidneys are metanephric kidneys. So obviously the duct is that carries the urine from kidney to the cloaca. Now it is called the ureter because they are metanephric kidney, and on both side of or outer side of the kidneys there are two ducts which carry the ova. Now they are called Mullerian duct or oviduct. So they at the anterior end they have a funnel like structure that receives the egg, and it carries the eggs, fertilized eggs, into the cloaca, and the wall of the oviduct is provided with the shell glands, which actually encase the fertilized eggs. So in birds, uh, the both ovary are in birds. Left ovary with oviduct is found in adult, but both ovary with oviducts are present in embryonic stages. Later, right ovary and oviduct degenerates and become vestigial. The oviduct, the left oviduct, is provided with several glands which secrete membranes over the eggs, like albumen and calcareous shell. The metanephric duct as ureter and Mullerian duct as oviduct. Here is the structure of birds, ovary and oviduct. So there is only left ovary remained, and the right one got degenerated. This is flight adaptation in birds. So this is left oviduct, and as you can see that at certain parts of the oviducts are enlarged to accommodate the eggs, and this oviduct, Mullerian duct, opens into the oviduct opens to exterior, whereas the metanephric kidney opens to metanephric kidneys open into urethra through the metanephric ducts. And the important information about the vertebrates, that in most vertebrates barring mammals, oviduct is not differentiated into parts and remain separated and open into the cloaca. But there is a different story takes place altogether in mammals. So in mammals, what happens? The oviduct is differentiated into three parts. First is fallopian tube, which is the anterior and narrow part. Then the second is uterus, which is wide and posterior part. Whereas the third part is the vagina, which is posterior most part. So here is the diagram of mammals, the ovaries and the oviduct. As we know that in mammals, the oviduct is differentiated to three parts. Okay, the fallopian tube, then the uterus, and last the vagina. And the kidneys are metanephric kidneys. So there is a pair of ureter which is opening into the urethra, and we also know that there is no cloaca found in mammals because of the separation of genital system with the rectum. So there is no cloaca. So the the ovary shed egg into the coelom and through the funnel, which are found at the anterior most part of the fallopian tube. So they receive the ova, then they are carried. The ova are carried through the fallopian tube into the uterus, and then the uterus unite or join with each other to at a different degree. There is a you can say the degree of fusion is different in different groups of the mammals, and ultimately the uterus join the vagina, and the vagina opens to exterior. So the ureter opens into the urinary bladder, and then the urinary bladder opens to the exterior through the urethra. So the two routes, the route through which the urine is passed is different from the route that carries the eggs. So in monotremes, which are primitive mammals, oviducts are separate, and there are two separate uteri opening into cloaca, and the vagina is absent in monotremes. But in marsupials and eutherians, the cloaca is absent because the separation of genital system from rectum. So let's see what is the condition of division of oviduct in marsupials. So in marsupials there are two uteri, that is why they are called didelphia, and there are two vaginae. So the vaginae are separate but joined along the median line. Here you can see this is didelphia condition, which is found in marsupials. So this is the fallopian tube, anterior most part of the oviduct, then the middle part, which is formed by the posterior part of the oviduct, are uterus. So there are two uterus. So the two uterus are joining with each other to form a vagina. So there are two vagina which are separate, but they are also linked with each other through this median line. So this is the condition found in didelphia. But in eutheria, two uteri fuse into a single tube. That is why they are called monodelphia. And based upon degree of fusion of uteri, there are four types of uterus: duplex uterus, bipartite uterus, bicornuate uterus, and simplex uterus. So the first is duplex uterus, which is found in rodents, elephants, and in some bats. So what happens in the first type of uterus, which is the duplex uterus? So the two uteri do not fuse but enter and open separately in the vagina. So as we can see that this is the fallopian tube, which is the anteriormost part of the oviduct. Then this is the posterior part of the uterus, and the posterior part of the uterus of both the oviduct are opening separately into the vagina. So this condition is called duplex uterus, which is found in rodents, elephants, and in some bats. Second condition is the bipartite uterus. So this is bipartite uterus, and as it is found in carnivores, pigs, and cattle, what happens in this condition? The lower end of two uteri fuse together so that they open by a single aperture. This single aperture is called os uterus into the vagina. So as you can see in this diagram, that this is the fallopian tube, anteriormost part of the oviduct. Then this part is uterus. So here the posterior part of the uterus of both the oviduct are fusing together, but there is a partition wall as well. So there is no single cavity present, but the posterior most part, which is the fused part of both the uteri, opens through a pore into the vagina. This pore is called os uterus. So this is a condition of oviducts and the fusion of uteri in bipartite uterus. Now the third condition is bicornuate uterus, which is found in ungulates, whales, and most bats. The lower ends of the two uteri fused more completely with no partition wall between the fused portions, and this part has a single cavity. So now you can see the fallopian tube, and these are the two uteri. So there is no partition and there is a single cavity. So you can say there is a greater fusion of lower part of the uteri as compared to the second type, which was the bipartite uterus. So here this is called the horn of the uterus, and this is the body of the vagina. Both of them are actually become part of uterus. So this condition is called the uh, bicornuate uterus, which is found in ungulates, whales and most bats. Now coming to the fourth type of uterus, which is simplex uterus, found in primates. The what happens in this condition? The two uteri fuse completely, forming a single body with one cavity only. So there is no, you can say, they are both the uteri are fused completely, and there is no partition wall, and there is a single cavity present in the uterus. So this is a single body with one cavity. These are the two fallopian tube. So you can say this is the greatest fusion of two uteri